All right, joining me now, Congressman Owens. Welcome back to the Alec Show.
Alex, looking forward to talking with you, my friend, for sure.
Hey, it's great to see you again here. I just kind of wanted to start out with, people on the left were going crazy over Donald Trump smacking Mexico and Canada with the tariffs to get them to do their part in helping us secure our borders. And the Mexican president, after Trump spoke to her, said, okay, we're going to send 10,000 troops to the border. And Trump says, okay, we'll pause the tariffs for 30 days now, and then we'll take it from there. So what was your take on that?
Well, first of all, I'm excited about how fast, keep in mind, it's only been 10 days, 10, 11 days, whatever that is. And yet we're seeing what American strength looks like, what visionary looks like, and we're finally getting respect. I can't say how exciting that is to see that his word means things for people, and they're going to make sure that as we do, we look for America first. They're going to make sure that we have our allies looking out for our best interests and their best interests at the same time. So very excited about that, and it's the way Trump rolls. It's kind of exciting to say the least.
Yeah, it's amazing. We're only in the beginning of week 3 here, and so much winning is already happening. And it's amazing to watch the left melt down over this. It's almost like they're rooting against America just because they can't stand to have the Trump derangement syndrome, and they'd rather see America fail than Trump put a win on the board.
You know, I played in the NFL for 10 years, and we had something called the all safety blitz. And it's actually it's on defense, but it's a very offensive strategy because you just create such chaos that the offense has no idea what to do. And that's what's happening with the Democrats now. We are doing things, and here's a part of this process also is it obviously is President Trump that has a mandate, he has a vision. He's the right guy at the right time. But the American people have done something the last 3 terms I'm so excited about. They've allowed every single term to bring more America First legislators to the place. So you have in the House and in the Senate, more America First. And then at the end of the day, the American people finally engaged. That's one thing I saw that I was so excited about before November 5th. I've never seen the American people talking about these issues, saying, I've been on the sideline for too long. I'm going to make my voice count. And that's what we're seeing. So what we're doing right now is pushing, as President Trump mentioned, pushing the hard left, the Marxists back 30 years. And they've been so tenacious, so strategic, and so patient, it's driving them nuts because they will never be able to get to where they are right now because we now know who they are. So it's kind of exciting, to say the least.
It is exciting to watch. And I wanted to hit on this because Trump had an executive order to remove DEI from the federal government. And this is something that he campaigned on. He promised to do. And it's what we voted for. And he did it. And we are sick and tired of it not being the best person for the job, the best person that gives us the best chance to win. But the left seems to think that it means it's a racist thing to do. So how do you balance this whole thing about DEI getting out of the government?
Well, a racist is what it is. It's just like it was back when I grew up in the Deep South, Alex, back in the 60s, where we were trying to command respect. One of the areas we commanded respect, you look at the old demonstrations, we have Martin Luther King demonstrating. Notice the white shirts, the black ties, the dress shoes, because it was more than just the Jim Crow laws. It was respect for us and our intellect. And so what's happening with this affirmative action and DEI is they're saying that we cannot compete. Blacks cannot compete. Hispanics cannot compete intellectually, unless we're giving a freeway. So no, it's time to get back to merit. That's what it comes down to. The more we do that, the less we are divisive, the less we look at each other outside in instead of inside out. So I'm excited about what Trump is doing. And by the way, there's another facet to this. We're trying to bring down the debt. We're trying to increase revenue. Everything he's doing is spot on to make that happen, like no other president we've ever seen in terms of the pace and what he's actually getting done in the first 2 and 3 weeks.
Yeah, well said, Congressman. And then on the back end of that, too, you had Pete Hegseth announcing that they're not going to be doing these identity months anymore at the Department of Defense. They're not going to be spending resources and man hours to celebrate identity months. And then Sean Duffy over at the Department of Transportation said the same thing. We're not going to be spending the taxpayer money on celebrations of every single month of all these different groups. It's like we are Americans, and this is what we are celebrating here.
Keep in mind the most powerful 3 words in the history of mankind is we the people. It's our harmony. It's what we do together. It's what we find in common. You wonder why the sports and the military has always been the melting pot. Those are areas that have led out in terms of getting to seeing each other the way we should see each other. Because in those arenas, you cannot afford to do anything but focus on merit. So yes, it is America first. It's what people have come to here in the past. They want to be shown as Americans, appreciated as Americans, and we're going to get that done. Of course, we will always respect the cultures that we bring with us. But more importantly than that is that we're a melting pot, and America is the place of freedom. And we'll do whatever we have to do, no matter what the culture might be, what the race might be, to make sure we're winning as a country.
Yeah, and the truth is, the people that really want the identity months and to keep forcing this are the people like on the left that want to divide the country. This is more about dividing us individually instead of having us come together as what we really are, and that is Americans.
Well, we have to understand, and this is why education is so important. We've literally been under attack for decades. It's called Marxism. In Marxists, very simply, we have as a country, as Americans, what makes us unique are the tenets we really work hard for: faith, family, the free market, and education. What is it that the Marxists hate? Faith, family, the free market, and education. So they can divide us in every way possible, men and women, black and white. You go through the list, they will find what color are your eyes. One day we'll get to that point if you left it to the Marxists. So no, we understand who they are. They want to divide us, and they are losing, and it's driving us nuts. Now here's the other piece of it. We finally have a lot of really good people who are Democrats that are finally seeing that the Democratic Party is full and led by Marxists now. And no matter we might not agree on everything, but we agree on a couple of things. We want to have safety, we want to have our freedom, we want to have our kids be educated in great schools so they can go out and have a great future. Things like that we want to have as a nation. And so we're finding out that it is within the Democratic Party, the termites of Marxism has set deep. And those who want to get away from it, we have a party that welcomes them. The Republican Party welcomes all of us, no matter who we are, what our background is. We might not agree on everything, but we love our country, and we'll make sure that we have a great future as we move forward.
And one of the greatest things, one of the disasters of the Marxism that's hit this country has been the division of the family. They have broken the family completely apart. We don't have fathers in the home. We don't have our nuclear families. And that's the foundation of everything that we do. Without that, everything falls apart. And the Marxists have driven a stake right in the heart of the nuclear family. And I pray that at some point down the line here, we'll be able to recover that, rebuild it, and start that foundation all over again.
We will, because now that we know, here's the thing about our great country. We have this tendency, we want to dream, we want to go out and do things that really make us happy, build our family, our businesses, have our vacation, get ready for retirement. And sometimes we forget that we're fighting against, on our doorstep, a very evil ideology. Now we know we're going to come back. And I'll say this, I have known this for over 60 years. I came through, again, grew up in a segregated community in Tallahassee, Florida. What we believed in was education, the family unit. We believed in the legacy and business ownership, and we led the country. Keep this in mind, Alex. We led the country in the 40s to the 60s in the growth of middle class, men matriculating from college, men committed to marriage, and percentage of entrepreneurs. We had the strongest family unit because we believed that was going to be our legacy. And guess what's happened? 6 years later, we have the weakest. So we know what it looks like. We were the model for the left to see how to destroy a culture, a community. And now that we know, we're going to come back. We're going to start asking men to stand up and man up and do what they're supposed to be. Provide for the families, be courageous, be the good example, and build your community and build your families. We get that done, and we have mothers who truly respect and understand the value they have to our society. Motherhood is what defines our culture, the bottom line. That's where you get the unconditional love of Christ. So we put that partnership together, we start getting our family, and we will start fighting against those things that we've been dealing with for so long. So it's just a matter of time, but we're on our way now.
Yeah, you look at in 1950, the two-parent household in the black community was 90%. 9 out of every 10 black kids had two parents in the home. Now it's 3 out of every 10. Only 30% of the black community is living with two parents in the home. And if you could look no further than why all these it goes across all races, because it's gotten worse in the white community, it's gotten worse in the Hispanic community, and every single problem we have, whether it be teenage suicide, teenage pregnancy, you name it, they can all correlate right back to this issue of the family being destroyed.
Because what happens in the family is what we build is something, first of all, we realize how to have unconditional love with each other. Because we do it in our family, we learn how that works, we can do it outside of it. The most important thing about this conversation, we need to get back to educating our kids. Ignorant and free can never be. If you take away education, take away the ability to read and write, to think, how do we get a self-esteem? We can't even think outside the box. So how do we communicate with someone when somebody disagrees and we believe that they're attacking us personally? How can we build a business we can't read and write? So at the end of the day, we get back to education, which is what we're doing right now. We have a president who cares. He's going to be transforming the Department of Education, or getting rid of it at some point. But right now, we're going to push that money back to the parents, allow them to choose the best medium for their kids to be educated, bring meritocracy, bring the free market into education like everything else, we'll have the smartest, most productive, most innovative kids in the country, I know, in the world. We don't have to import anybody when we can build it right here, and that's what we're getting done. Educated and productive young people, and we'll be able to again be very excited about the next legacy, the next generation for sure.
And on the education, Congressman, break this down for me. The Educational Choice for Children's Act is something right now you guys are working on. So break that down for me.
One of the most important, I think, for intergenerational change, this legislation will be that. What it comes down to is this. It's going to give Americans, individuals and corporations, an opportunity to invest in our kids. The investment company called Scholarship Granting Organizations, CSOs. These are nonprofits. It's not dealing. There's no oversight with the Department of Education. It only thing is the Department of Revenue, the Treasury, so that it makes sure it's a nonprofit. What happens is we can invest. We give tax credits, and from that pot, parents can decide to do anything they want to, private, public, parochial. It doesn't, whatever that parent wants to do, they can take that money out, tuition, and allow that child to be able to go out and prosper. What we have to make sure is very simply, and by the way, it takes nothing at all from the public school system. It takes nothing at all from the local district. This is investments by Americans, and they get a tax credit for it. And the return on investment is that we have a much smarter next generation. So it's exciting. Right now, we're looking at trying to put it through reconciliation. If we can do that, then our goal is to make sure that every community, particularly those who've been at risk in the past, understand it's available, so they can make sure they go out and get the funds that they need to put their kids in the best school and not be held in these failing schools that the kids just can't move forward with.
So this is about giving power back to the parents here and giving them the options, because we've thrown a ton of money. It's not a lack of money. We've thrown a ton of money at all these things, and it hasn't changed. We are failing in math. We're failing in reading. We're way off the mark since the Department of Education was founded back in '79, whatever it may be. We have gone just on a downward spiral. So it's not the money is the issue. It's what we do with the money. It's where we choose to put the kids. So I think giving the parents back this opportunity to be in power of their kids' education is going to be beneficial to the parents and beneficial to the children, then obviously beneficial to our entire society here.
And what we have to understand is we have adults that run these labor unions to care less about their kids. Literally, it started back in 1970, and from at this point, we have 30% of eighth graders cannot read and write. Now, that doesn't include the Black and Hispanic communities that are doing even less. Back in 2017, 75% of the Black boys in the state of California could not pass standard reading and writing tests, and yet nothing's been done about it. So the focus of the elite unions is failure. So they're succeeding in what they want to get done. They're dumbing our society down, which will get people more dependent on the government. And we're saying this: we're going to bring meritocracy back to this industry. We're going to make sure we can find a way to attract the best minds for teachers. Teaching is probably the most important industry that we have out there, because that's where our legacy, our culture is taken down to next generations. And we have to figure out a way to make sure that we hold on to great teachers and bring those in different industries to this industry and give them a great lifestyle, because every other profession, if you're good at what you do, you get paid very, very well. We're going to make sure that happens in this industry. And those who don't want to teach, don't want to focus on our kids, find something else to do. We need to bring the very best and compete again for that top dollar. And we'll figure out a way over the next 4 years to make that happen.
Yeah, great stuff, Congress. Yeah, we want to put our kids in the best position to win, give them the best opportunity to win. And I think this does that. Switching gears here, Secretary Duffy, he came, I mean, talk about getting put right into the fire here. This guy was sworn in, and then within 24 hours, he's got a crash to deal with in Washington, D.C., which obviously a tragedy, and hearts goes out to everybody involved. And then within 24 hours after that, he's got another plane goes down in Philadelphia. So Secretary Duffy, I mean, he got literally thrown right into it. So what's your take on how he's been handling all this?
First of all, he's prepared. What we're seeing here is something that's very unique. And by the way, I think we should take pause and realize that we are in a remarkable time in history. We have a chance as a people to see what it looks like to have a government that's working for us. It's America first. And what President Trump is doing, very simply, he's looking for the very best of the best minds, and they're proving themselves. So Sean is hitting the ground running. Every single department is doing the very same thing. Right now, they're making sure they get rid of this DEI mess. That they're bringing people in based on characteristics that we have no control on. We're focusing again on merit. And just imagine, with all these disasters, this tragedy, there are people that still don't get it. So just recognize, this is our moment to recognize we put somebody on a plane, we get on a plane ourselves. We want to make sure the very, very best, no matter what their background, culture, what their language is, that the very best is flying that plane, driving that car, whatever it might be. The very best should be the ones that are running our nation, and we're doing that now from government top down. It's kind of exciting to see that process.
Yeah, and I've never gotten on a plane once and wondered, I wonder who my pilot is sleeping with. You know what I mean? I've always wondered, I hope this guy knows how to fly the plane. I mean, it seems like it's a basic thing. And I don't think there's a single Democrat alive that if you gave them the choice, hey, you could get on the plane with the best qualified pilot or the pilot that got the job because of who he sleeps with or what color of his skin is. Not one single person is going to choose to fly on the DEI plane, left or right.
And that's the fact. And at the end of the day, you have to keep in mind when it comes down to Marxists, to socialists, it's not logic. If you try to use logic, you break your brain. It really is. It's hard to understand how people think because, in essence, you have to keep in mind, ideology for them is a religion. That's what it is. So what we're doing right now, we're bringing common sense. You cannot say. You think about what this administration is all about, what the American people voted for. It's really two words: common sense. It's old school stuff that we grew up with, things we figured out. Where in the world does this stuff come from, and why? How can I be looked at as being wrong by using common sense? So common sense is popular again. It's cool again, and the greatest. We have the greatest administration. There's a book that I read a while back, the Team of Rivals about President Lincoln, the team he put together that were once the folks he was competing against to get to this position of president. What he did to make that work is why we now talk about him as being one of the greatest presidents in our country. What President Trump is doing right now is bringing the very best minds. Some were former Democrats, but yet they have a talent, they have a passion, and they're all tuned into America first. We should look at this as an example across the board of what America should be. Let's not let our party divide us. Let's not let our color, our cult, our sex, that should not divide us. It should be America that brings us together and allow that process to begin to let things like sports and military also bring us together even more. We'll find those other areas to find common ground. But the very first is that we're Americans. We do that, then we're going to find a way to make sure we're all moving forward in a very, very good way.
Yeah, really great stuff, Congressman. And I know that we said the energy in America is high. Right now, everyone feels positive. We feel positive about the direction America is headed. How is that feeling in Congress right now? What's the energy like for you guys there in Congress? And what are the agendas? What are you guys looking to accomplish in the near future here? What's going on this month?
Well, this is my third term. So to me, I've never felt this way in Congress before, to have the kind of leadership. And what we're going to find is this: as a team, as a Republican team, we don't do the collective thing. We have individuals going to have our different ways of thinking. And unless you have a really powerful leader, it's very tough to bring this team together. What President Trump has done, because of his relationship with Mike Johnson, Speaker, we're not going to have the chaos we've had over the last few years. As a matter of fact, I'm going to give a real quick example because I've felt this before. Back in 1981, I played with the Raiders when we won Super Bowl championship. What made that happen was a leader called Al Davis. Al Davis, no matter what your thoughts might be, what your personality, as long as you stepped your foot on the field and succeeded, you were a Raider. And that's what. And there's a respect factor and a fear factor because you don't want to get on the wrong side of Al Davis. We have a president the same way. We respect him. The country's given him a mandate, and we have a tendency now as a team to back him up. We don't want to be on the wrong side of history and the wrong side of President Trump. So we're going to have a window that we can get things accomplished. If we can use this as muscle memory of how we work together when it's a very, very tight majority, we can take that as we build this majority out and do some much, much greater things. We need to learn how to work as a team. Because as anybody's been a part of a team, you understand what I'm talking about. You're looking out for each other, not for yourself. You're trying to find out how to win and respect each other as you bring your talents to the field. So this is what we have to get done in Congress right now.
I love that analogy, Congressman. And just like any sports team, one person with that negative attitude against the team could become a cancer in the locker room and destroy the whole team. And sometimes we see that in the GOP. And sometimes we feel like, hey, we could be doing so much more winning if it wasn't for our own shooting ourselves in the foot here. We see that sometimes. We're like, man. And then we talk about primary, then we primary get another guy, and then that guy does the same thing. So sometimes we've been so let down by that, but it does feel like there's a reemergence here, and everyone's kind of getting on board and saying, okay, this is the leadership. And I think that's what you say. Leader, it starts at the top with the leadership. If they looked at the leadership, we're going in one direction. I have faith that we could finally get this thing all together here.
It's all about a culture. And again, I felt this culture once before. And for many of you guys like yourself, you're too young to remember the Al Davis days. but they had a culture that was so unique. One that it was a second chance. It was a place when you can have all kind of issues, too old, too crazy for other teams, but just right for the Raiders. And what President Trump has done is created a culture. He's showing that he's going to do everything he can. He's taking away all the excuses in terms of why we cannot get together a reconciliation bill. He's making sure that he's pulling back all the fraud, the waste, so that our debt is not going to be as much as it was projected to be. We just have to do our part now. We come together, support the issues he wants to. Let's make sure we win enough so that people will continue to come our way. This is a window that a lot of folks, for the first time, voted for the GOP. We have to prove that we have the values that they relate to, and they were consistent to make sure that their values and their voices are heard. And we do that, and it's going to be very tough for hard left and Marxists to ever come back within our lifetime. That should be our goal.
Yeah, amen to that. All right, last thing, because you mentioned it here, obviously, the NFL, you've played this at the highest level. We got the Super Bowl this weekend here. Give me your thoughts. Give me your take on the Super Bowl here. Who's going to take it down? How's it going to play out?
You know, it's interesting. I'm one of those guys. I made a decision 6 years ago. When they started kneeling, I stopped watching. So unfortunately, I'm one of those guys. If you ask me what's going on, I would not be able to tell you what's happening. But I will say I have a respect for Andy Reid because I lived in Philadelphia a while. Just the culture he's put together. So I'm rooting for him, but I have not watched the game in 6 years. So it goes back a while.
I'll tell you, it totally turned me off as well. And I follow because doing my other show, First Class Fatherhood, I've interviewed a lot of these guys about fatherhood. And I think one of the good things is like somebody like Patrick Mahomes, who has become like the face of the NFL, is a guy that is dedicated to his family. He puts his family first. He's a good father. He puts God first. And I think those messages, and I think the NFL and the left hate it when they stick that microphone in the players' faces. And the first thing that they say is all glory goes to God. And I think that really makes them cringe. They never play up that attitude. But I think we're seeing that more and more, not just in the NFL, but across sports. A lot of the athletes putting God first, and some of them now more prominent putting family first.
You nailed it. And I'll tell you what's happening when you have a great leader. When you look at what President Trump has gone through the last 4 years, including the assassination attempt, the first thing he thinks of is he stands to fight, fight, fight. This is what young men are looking for. They respect it. They say, this is awesome. We have that desire to want to be respected by those around us. And how do you do that? By showing courage, by showing principle, by running to the issue instead of running away from it. So what young men are seeing is what it looks like. The scene now is really cool. And because it's cool, you're going to find more young men learning to be true men. And I'm excited about that. We get that done. And those young men, when they grow up, they're going to make sure their family, even if they might have come through a dysfunctional family, they will put their family together. And that's going to continue to allow us to grow on that. It's going to be a little bit longer process, but now we know what it looks like. Now we know what it feels like to be successful as men. And President Trump has been a great example for all these guys. So I'm looking forward to continue this process for sure.
Well said, Congressman. Congressman Owens, it's always an honor to have you on the show. I'm grateful for your time. Thanks for giving me a few minutes today on the Alec Show.
Thanks, my friend. I appreciate it. See you soon.